Jai Baba. If my silence cannot speak, of what avail would be speeches made by the tongue? Meher Baba. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Thank you, beloved Baba, for permitting us to meet in his love, in his remembrance. Yesterday, we discussed about Meher Baba's unique and mystical silence and came to the conclusion, based on the statements from a few close Mandali members, that Baba's silence and his statements about breaking of his silence were beyond the human ken. That is, it was ununderstandable to the limited intellect. We also read yesterday about the days leading up to beloved Baba's Silence Day, that is the 10th of July 1925. Today we will try to cover more ground by visiting some anecdotes and Baba's statements in reference to them. Day after tomorrow, we would all be celebrating the 95th anniversary of beloved Baba's silence. Continuing from yesterday, although we said that there are certain things about Baba's silence which are beyond our understanding, this much we do understand, and that is that Baba's silence was no penance or sadhana, because Baba himself, being the God-man, was perfect in all respect, and there was nothing more for him to achieve or to gain. Baba himself says, "My outward silence is no spiritual exercise. It has been undertaken and maintained solely for the good of others." So we know now that Baba has taken up this silence solely for our benefit. We also do understand and accept that Baba, out of his own volition, freely and voluntarily, and forced upon himself this self-imposed binding and obvious consequent suffering to him, in order to free us from our binding of Maya and resultant karmic suffering. Baba's beloved Mehra tells us how much Baba's silence increased his suffering and contributed to his sense of helplessness. Mehra says that Baba's nature was happy and cheerful. He loved to talk, he loved to sing and to laugh. But after undertaking silence, Baba could not utter a single word. What a stupendous self-binding. She further states that Baba had a great sense of humor. But if he wanted to convey something funny or humorous, he would have to point it out on his alphabet board. And by the time he finished saying that, half the fun was lost. Obviously, a joke has to be very spontaneous and very quick. So he had to point it out on the alphabet board. Then Mehra says, Baba loved to laugh. But even that sound of laughter, he denied himself and had to hold it back. We have heard so many instances where Baba, when he wanted to really laugh out loud, he would hold his hand, over the mouth, or put a handkerchief over the mouth, and his face would be flushed red, So that much also he had to hold himself from laughing. This aspect of self-imposed suffering is also highlighted by Upasni Maharaj when the two men met at a secluded spot. After Baba left Sakori, Upasni Maharaj was constantly asking Baba to meet him. But for some reason or the other, Baba would not. Then came a time when Upasni Maharaj persisted, and Baba said, okay, on a few conditions, we will meet not at Sakori, not at Meherabad, but at different place. And that place should be like a in between the Sakori and Meherabad. And a place was selected called the Dahigaon. And in that small place called the Dahigaon, in a small hut, Baba and Upasni Maharaj met on 17th of October 1941. Baba's other condition was that although you are my master, I will not be speaking with you. That means, in other words, if you tell me to speak, I will not speak with you. After the meeting, Baba said that the meeting was very successful. After the meeting, Baba related that Upasni Maharaj folded his hands and with tears streaming from his eyes, told Meher Baba, कि अब हद हो गई है. It is enough. Enough is enough. You have taken on a lot of suffering through the observance of silence. I would want you to break your silence now. And Baba very adamantly said to Maharaj that I am meant to suffer. I have come here with the purpose of suffering. Come here in the sense, come on earth with the purpose of suffering. And I will not give up my silence, or I will not give the word unless my work is done. My work is most important to me. So when one can see that Baba really undertook such stupendous suffering, all for our sake. Then this was about suffering. Now let us take something very humorous. There's a humorous anecdote of Mani taking a promise, or I would say extracting a promise from her brother Meher Baba, saying that he would not break his silence if Mani is not present there. So I would just, it's a very beautiful, I would just like to read it out, because as we all know, Mani used to write beautifully. She had a flair for writing. So Mani writes, every now and then we would hear a mention about Baba planning to break his silence. Of course, anything concerning Baba was my concern, and I wanted to be in on it. So I went and took a special promise from him. I said, Baba, when you break your silence, I want to be with you. He said, Baba said, of course, you will be with me. I said, promise, promise. So he did. He promised solemnly with his hand in mine. You know how we give promise, with his hand in mine. After I had him do that again and again, I felt the matter was sealed. Around that, this must be the time when Mani was going to school, and she must be around 11, 12, 13 years, a kid. After I had made him do that again and again, I felt the matter was sealed. This happened some 5 years after Baba began his silence. I heard that Baba had sent out a circular saying he was going to break his silence soon. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Baba knew my next holidays wouldn't be till after November. And he knew he had forbidden me to go to him during school. Baba had prohibited her to come to Baba, to come to him during school time. No bunking school, sort of. He had promised me most solemnly to have me with him when he broke his silence. And yet, he had decided to break his silence at this time. See how the young mind thinks. I immediately sat down and wrote a letter to my dear brother saying, You promised that I will be with you when you break your silence. I am most surprised to hear you are going to break your silence in 2 months when I'm still at school. So either you allow me to come and be with you when you break your silence, or you postpone the breaking of your silence. See, the little kid is telling the God man, you postpone because I won't be there. And then Mani writes, I added a postscript, PS, I can come right now. This must have scared Baba because his reply came back very fast. No, don't come. He wrote, I have decided to postpone the breaking of my silence. So that was a very humorous story. Uh, well, Mani says, I took his decision for granted. After all, it was one of the two things I had asked him to do. So it seemed quite natural that Baba postponed the breaking of his silence until the time when his kid sister could be with him during her holidays. So this is what Mani writes in her book, splendid book called God Brother. Another very profound anecdote comes to us from Ramju. As we all know, Ramju Abdullah was a very, very close, dedicated disciple of Meher Baba. So one fine day, Baba tells just a few of his monthly members and says, I am going to break my silence in the presence of all of you. So he takes them on a very strenuous hike. That means they actually walked for several days and came to a very secluded spot. And then Baba arranges them to stand in a circle, and Baba is standing in the center. They're all standing in the circle, and they are all backing Baba. That means their faces are away from Baba. And then Baba instructs that I will now clap. And when I clap, all of you should turn around. And at that time, I will break my silence. So you can imagine what enthusiasm, what kind of pride that Baba is going to break his silence in front of just a few of us. So all of them were there. They went there and they were supposed to stand about 50 feet away from Baba. And as Baba said, he clapped. When he clapped, they were to turn, and they turned. They turned, but nobody heard him utter a sound. Nobody heard him anything. So when he was questioned about that, he replied with another question of his own. Do you not know I am always speaking? This is the answer to the question, why did you not break your silence? As we struggled in a very strenuous stretch of several days, and just to do this. So Baba says, do you not know I am always speaking? So here again, Baba is trying to say that do not associate my breaking of the silence with something which I will speak. It is something to do with the feelings. It is something to do with the heart. It is something to do with our love for Baba. At another time, Baba said, the moment I started observing silence, I started simultaneously breaking my silence in the heart of those who are ready to receive my love. To me, this is a very clear and an unambiguous revelation that breaking of Baba's silence is not confined within the time-space continuum. This is what, as I always say, it is my take on it. This is how I look at it, that we do not have to expect Baba to speak in the way we expect him to speak. And yet another time, Baba says, I am never silent. I speak eternally. The voice that is heard deep within the soul is my voice. The voice of inspiration, of intuition, of guidance. To those who are receptive to this voice I speak. Once again, Baba is talking about breaking of his silence in our heart. At certain places, I have read this message as through those who are receptive to this voice I speak. I have read both these messages to those and through those. I'm reading here to those because I found it more appropriate for the occasion. To back up this episode of Baba, talking in the heart, there is another very beautiful one which also draws our attention to the heart. We all know Arnavas Dada Chanji. Once when Narayan Maharaj visited Bombay, Arnavas with a few of her family members, she visited Narayan Maharaj, and in the course of talking, she said that my uncle stays with Meher Baba. She was meaning Chanji, who was Baba's first secretary. My uncle stays with Meher Baba. Now just imagine Narayan Maharaj, a perfect master, knows Meher Baba so well. He says, yeah, I know of him. And then he says, I heard that he is keeping silence. I heard that he's keeping silence. And he's asking Arnavas, why is he keeping silence? Arnavas says, Maharaj, you know better, you know best. And then Maharaj says, why don't you make him speak? Why don't you make him speak with the intensity of your love? At other places, I have heard, I don't know from whom, where I was told, and I have this memory in my brain, which says, that Maharaj says, you must make him speak. You must force him to speak, compel him to speak. And then very, what should I say, soft tone mein, he says, in your own hearts. So in other words, here also, I am drawing this conclusion that speaking of Baba is in our own hearts. That was one thing. And another, apparently the same, in the same vein, you may say, when Baba says that when the word of my love breaks out of its silence, telling you in your heart who I really am, then know that that is the real word you have always been longing to hear. In other words, when Baba breaks his silence in our hearts and gives us this very strong conviction that he is the avatar of the age, the highest personality ever, then this is my take, then one can construe that Baba has broken his silence within our hearts. There was this another very famous promise to break his silence, to break Baba's silence at the Hollywood Bowl. During his visit to the USA in 1932, I would like to read that out. Baba distributed powerful spiritual discourses and messages which stroked the fire of interest in the impending breaking of his silence in California. The idea of doing it in the Hollywood Bowl was in the air. It's a hotel, yes. It was at luncheon date with, there are names here, Mary Dressier, who was at the height of her popularity, co-starring with Charlie Chaplin's film. In Charlie Chaplin's film, she had received the Academy Award the year before. In a light-hearted mood, she told Baba that she would like to take him out in the woods and dance with him. And she even added, and even if you want to speak a few words to me, I promise not to tell anyone. So Baba spelled out, before breaking my silence, it is essential for me to proceed to China. And on my return, I will break my silence on the 13th of July, that means 1932, at the Hollywood Bowl. Immediately the arrangement started, newspaper coverage was made, worldwide radio links were, announced Baba's breaking of his silence. Fashionable ladies began preparing their God realization dresses because Baba said that a great spiritual push will be given when I break my silence. So all those who were near Baba, they thought that they would realize God, they would get God realization. So they had their gowns and dresses made for God realization. I distinctly remember Delia De Leon narrating this personally, firsthand, when I was posted in England and I used to attend her Tuesday sessions at the Kew Garden, when she said that we were so excited. We were so excited. I cannot tell you, we were so excited. And when Baba just, without anything, he just came and went back and sat in India, we were so thoroughly let down, we felt so horrible how to face people whom we were talking that Baba would be breaking his silence. So here, all these gowns were made for God realization. At 11 o'clock that night, Baba and his group, including Quentin, sailed for Hawaii on SS Monterey. 2 days after arriving in Honolulu, Baba sent Quentin back to California to alert everyone that he has changed his mind and there would be no show in the Hollywood Bowl. The Associated Press carried the story on July 13, 1932 under the heading Silent Hindu Defers Radio Talk. So that was it. Later, in reference to his cancelled plans to break his silence in the Hollywood Bowl in 1932, Baba said to Delia, "Did you think I would speak on a definite date in a large hall before a crowd of people?" At another time, in reference to the same occasion, he said to one of his close disciples, "Imagine you having fallen for that one." So obviously, there was no plan. This has been oft repeated happening that Baba would really raise our anxiety in the sense a positive anxiety, our spirits, and then all of a sudden he would just change his plans. What was the purpose behind this? I really do not know. There definitely must be an inner spiritual purpose behind it, which we do not understand. The only, what should I say, comparison I could do from my limited intellect is that Baba would build schools, hospitals, dispensaries, hostels at Mehrabad and at other places. And it has just begun to thrive. You can say from the standpoint of the outer view, we feel that, oh, it is progressing very well. It's making a good progress. And just then, at that point in time, Baba would just dismantle the whole thing and close everything. And then when Baba would be asked, why do you do that? Baba gave a very splendid, a very beautiful reply, saying that all these external things like establishing hospitals, clinics, schools, etc., are just like outer scaffolding for the building. We call it paraj, the bamboo paraj. They are like outer scaffolding. And once the inner work is done, that means whatever I am doing is something internal, is something spiritual, is something which is not perceivable to the naked eye. So that work, once that work is complete, I just demolish the external scaffolding. And we are so attached to the scaffolding that we are at a loss to understand as to why would Baba do such a thing when things are moving so beautifully, so smoothly. Why is he breaking it down? So he's not concerned with the external, he's concerned with the internal. So perhaps in the same way, he raises expectation, our anxiety, our whatever, and whatever work that Baba has to do within us at that time, and then he is out. Same thing used to happen when he would visit with his mandali to see a film show. They used to go quite often to see films in a theater. And when he goes to the theater, he would allocate places as to where each one would sit. And people would be so engrossed in the drama of the film. And when it is coming to a, what should I say, climax, now what will happen now? It's so suspense, you can say. Baba would just snap and say, chalo, let's get out. And so there would hardly be a time where the Mandli has seen a complete film. They would just go and see, and when they exasperate, what is going to happen next, Baba would just click and just walk off. And the same thing would happen with cricket matches and other. So in other words, what I'm trying to convey is that we see only the external. Baba looks to the internal. And once his internal work is over, then there is no point in perpetuating the external show. And then he just walks off from that place. So that is my understanding or interpretation.
What spiritual work he does when they are focused?
Sorry?
What spiritual work he needs to do does when they're focused?
Okay. Baba Soumya promised me to say that, but that the idea is that why would he go to dramas and films and cricket matches and stuff like that? Is because everybody's focus is on that. And when everybody's focus is on that, their focus is not on their egocentric self. They are lost to themselves in watching whatever they are watching or or whatever they are experiencing. And in such a state of mind, Baba says, I am able to do my spiritual work much better because your consciousness about your own self is not there at that time, and you're focused on a central theme of a film or a match or whatever it is. So thank you, Soumya. All right. Now, Jean Adriel writes, a small paragraph where, in her book called The Avatar. It's a very beautiful book where she writes, in connection with the Hollywood incident, she writes the same thing, that we felt so, what should I say, so let down. We felt so embarrassed. We felt like we cannot face our friends whom we had so highly spoken about Baba, and we felt so let down, So she writes that after writing all that, but as the hours passed, that means as the days and the weeks and the months passed, I gained better perspective. I realized that though I could not understand his motive, I knew in my heart that nothing he did was ever prompted by the slightest shadow of self-interest, and that his consciousness so far transcended man-made ethics or conduct that his words or actions could not be judged by our conventional concepts of right and wrong. We have a certain mindset of what is right and what is wrong, and what Baba did to many of us many a times may appear to be not quite right, not quite moralistic, even not quite legal, but then Baba is above all these things. Baba is above law, and the only purpose why he does whatever he does is for the best interest for everyone concerned, and he doesn't care, it doesn't bother him what the people, what the world thinks about him. Now there's another beautiful one where Anna Purnaya, he was the editor of a Telugu weekly called the Velugu. He asked Baba once that, Baba, will the Andhra lovers be informed? He was very concerned about the Nori brothers at that time. So he asked, Baba, will the Andhra lovers be informed of the time and place of the breaking of your silence? So Baba looked amused, and with his characteristic smile and twinkle in his eyes, he answered, my dear Velugu, if this is what is meant by the breaking of my silence, it would be better if I don't break it. So in other words, time and again, Baba is hammering us that is not what I meant. That is not what I'm meaning. After a slight pause, Baba continued. Just as I told you last night, so that was some occasion in 1954, month of March. Just as I told you last night, the powerhouse is to be switched on. Baba is the powerhouse. We are all the bulbs connected with the line, and all the bulbs connected with it will be lit up. So this will not be just here, but throughout the world. All will know. But the bulbs, that means the heart, that are fused will not give any light. That means those who have no love will not. And when this is my take again, love not necessarily of Meher Baba in that name and form, but love in any form, pure love of any master, or even pure love at the human state. If there is pure love, that bulb would light. This is my take on this. And that is why Baba says, I have been telling you all to love me more and more. The time for the powerhouse to be switched on is so near that the only thing that will count now is love. When Baba uses the word near, when Baba uses the word, I'm going to break my silence soon, I don't know how to interpret it, because Baba had said time and again that whenever I speak from different levels of my consciousness. If he's talking not in our language, but in his language, this soon or very near can take maybe a few hundred years. I really do not know. So I don't want to comment more on that. All right. Again, here Baba says the same thing. At another time, Baba said, to ask whether my lovers will be informed of the time and place of the breaking of my silence would be ridiculous, and in itself would show that the significance of the breaking of my silence has not been truly understood. Again, Baba is harping on the same tune. All right. Now, in 19, and this happened, the Hollywood Bowl happened in 1932. Now, Herbert Davy was Kitty Davy's brother. And so at one point in time, he was so, in a sense, disillusioned by Baba's constant breaking of his silence and constant changing of plans and constant, in a sense, doing things which were not so-called right according to him. So one fine day in October 1933, Herbert and Baba met at a certain place and discussed matters at considerable length. Herbert asked Baba, you promise to speak, but you do not do it. What will the world think of you? So now this is Baba's response to it, and I'm going to read it out to you. Baba says, it is good for mankind, rather essential, to adhere to religious and moral principles and observe religious bindings. But for the spiritual path, they are unnecessary. I am beyond all principles, bindings, laws, and matters pertaining to the worldly duties. I am perfect, and there is no restraint or binding for me. I have broken all barriers, and I have gone beyond all laws. We all know, and I have been repeating this, that the dominion of the law of karma is the domain of duality. That means the law of karma has its authority only in the domain of duality. As long as we are in duality, as long as we are in illusion, as long as we have not gone above duality, we have not gone in Advait, oneness, truth, unity, reality, we have not gone in that, we have not realized the truth of God, we are governed by the law of karma. And there are several intervening laws in between. So Baba says here that since I am on the other side of law, these laws do not bind me. Then Baba goes on to say, according to the moral code of the world, one's word or promise is considered by mankind to be sacred. That means once you give a word or a promise, it must be fulfilled. Think twice before you give a promise. But he who has gone beyond time, space, cause, and effect is not limited by anything. For him, there is no such thing as bondage. The infinite cannot be bound by anything finite, however sublime the aim may be. This means that one cannot limit the limitless. See how Baba elaborates about why he behaves the way he behaves, and he is explaining it to Herbert. And for this reason, and without your asking, I give you promises and your aim will be fulfilled at the proper time. But I also know, now this I feel is a little important statement, but I also know that a promise can be a time serving device. That my understanding again, that Baba gives promise in order to serve a certain spiritual purpose for him, and it was only meant to serve that purpose and not meant to be fulfilled. So Baba says that I also know that a promise can be a time-serving device. It is not meant for fulfillment, but necessitated by circumstances. It is a demand of the situation, and so I do not care for its resultant reaction. In other words, his focus, his importance, he is concerned with a certain result, and in order to obtain that certain result, if he were to give a promise, which apparently for us is a false promise, he is not concerned or bothered or bound by it, because the purpose has been served. We have this right and wrong, good and bad, vice and virtues, but Baba is above that, and he plays his game in that manner. I remember another very humorous incident where Muhammad the Mast, there was a certain passage of time when Muhammad the Mast, kept on pleading and crying and wanting to be close to his wife. He wanted his wife to be near him, and he would continuously pester his caretaker, whosoever he may be, and constantly for days together, that I want to be with my wife, I want to see my wife, I want to be close to my wife, and all that. And when that word went to Baba, so Baba said, so what? So what? I mean, we can make a wife, like words to the effect I'm saying, that we can create a wife for him and then take that wife to him. What is the big deal, So then I remember Yasmin was that wife, I think, in the drama. Yeah, Yasmin was the, so they took some lady, some other lady with some bandage.
No. Baba promised it was not for you to
Okay. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, Soumya. And Baba kept on promising. Thank you, Soumya, very much. Baba kept on promising, yes, I will bring your wife. I will bring you your wife. I will bring your wife to. And it went on for several days. And then ultimately, he was so crestfallen that he started really crying and weeping. Not because the wife was not brought, but because Baba broke his promise and he did not bring his wife to him. Then ultimately, to appease Muhammad the Mast, they manufactured a wife. They created some wife, and made her look very sick, very sick, with some kind of bandage and eye swollen and bandage on the, somebody who was not very pretty to look at, not very pretty to look at, and not very healthy to look at. So then the caretakers and the mandli says, okay, Baba said that you are so exasperated, you are so, you want to have your wife, so we have called her, and but she's not well, so don't trouble her and all that. So the wife is brought, limping and all kinds of bad bandages and not speaking proper, like that, speaking with a croaked voice and says, "Ah, main aa gayi." And he is saying, "Oh, you are my wife. I can't even recognize you. What happened to you?" And then the wife says, "Well, I have not been keeping too well. I am too bad, and this thing, I want to take care of. Go. Go and take care of yourself. See that you are in good health." And in other words, Baba kept a promise in this way. Now, if you look at it from a worldly standpoint, point of view, you will say, no, this is absolute cheating. How can you do such a thing? But the whole purpose is that the purpose was served. So Baba doesn't look into the right, wrong, good, bad. He sees to the purpose. That's what I understand Baba telling Herbert. So here Baba says, when Baba says that it is a demand of the situation, and so I do not care for the resultant reaction. Baba says, therefore, I do not worry about the world's criticism, because Baba did quote a lot of world's criticism, that Baba said all bada baat, and then all of a sudden he never came to Hollywood Bowl. He just bypassed that particular place and went straight to India. You see, so for Baba says, therefore I do not worry about the world's criticism or its terrible slander and harm to my work for not keeping my promise. Now this is very important. Baba says, I purposely create and quote such opposing reactions and nurture them. Baba creates such situation for his own spiritual work. We really do not know what that means. There was one KJ Dastur who was with Baba at the very early period of time, and he was writing these Meher messages. And after some time, for whatever reason, people assumed that he was very clever, he was very intelligent. He used to edit the magazines very beautifully. And when Baba went to the West, he did not take KJ Dastur to the West, and he took somebody who did not even know a word of English, or somebody who just was not so, what should I say, savvy with English and all that. But this is just a hearsay, we do not know. And so he felt very disappointed and very let down by Baba. And so then he started writing opposite Baba. Means he started writing, accusing Baba. He started writing adverse things about Baba in the Meher messages. Can you imagine? And Baba would be financing him to publish those messages. Now, I don't know what sort of game is this, but these are all Baba's games, so we really do not know. So here Baba says, I actually, I purposely create and quote such opposing reactions and nurture them. Such an opposition is required for my work to give it a real punch. I am beyond praise and slander, and they do not affect me in the least. Now, I am not reading the whole letter, whole passage, but I'm just coming to the last one where Baba says, that I am the truth. No amount of voluminous praise will raise me higher, nor can any carping criticism pull me down. I am what I am and will ever be so. Whatever I do, again, this is very important. Whatever I do for my work, which encompasses and sees to the welfare of all. In other words, Baba had said once, that I know three things, and in that one of that was that all my actions are the outcome of my infinite love for everyone and everything in creation. These may not be the exact words, but words to the effect that all his actions are aimed at betterment and aim for the welfare of everyone and everything in the creation. Once, while sitting with a group of his lovers in Guru Prasad, one of his dear ones said, Baba, some of my friends are scholars and they are really very good people with many more spiritual qualities than I have. Often remark that things do not happen as you say that they will. Somebody passed a very, in a sense, a very critical remark that Baba, you say certain things happen at a particular point in time, at a certain date, and then it doesn't happen. Now see Baba's beautiful reply. Perhaps this was obliquely referring to Baba's oft repeated promises to break his silence on such and such a date. Baba's eyes sparkled, and with a chuckle, he gestured. You know, when I was in school, I was good at all subjects except arithmetic. And Baba did say in many places that math, arithmetic was my worst subject. That must be the why I have trouble with the dates and the years. So Baba is saying arithmetic was my weak subject, and that must be the reason why, I am very bad and very poor with dates and the years. What a reply. A magnificent Avtaric joke. Here ends my talk. Now, as we all know, we are going to celebrate Baba's silence. And many people ask me whether Baba has given any direction with regard to silence. So I would like to end it with this statement that while Baba did not mandate his followers to observe silence on the silence day after he dropped this body, the majority of his lovers do so, and they love to observe silence on the 10th of July every year on an informal and voluntary basis, honoring his last wish with regard to observance of silence from the 9th midnight to the 10th midnight, which is July, obviously, according to the local calendar. So in other words, although Baba has not given any direct specific orders that silence should be continued to be observed after Baba dropped his body, the general consensus, including all of the Mandali, I wouldn't say most, is that this was Baba's last wish. That means Baba had given this message of 24 hours silence from the 9th night till the 10th night. And this message was given sometime in December of 1968, meant for July 1969. But Baba dropped his body in January 1969. And so we consider that as the last message concerning silence, and we all joyfully, lovingly, voluntarily do it in order to salute his 44 years silence, in order to honor his 44 years silence, in order to participate in his silence. So with that, I would just want to say Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. I will open up for any question answers. If there are any questions, you are welcome to ask.
Yeah, Dilshad has a question.
Jyoti, your phone started working.
No, sir, I logged in from the computer.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, Dilshad.
Thank you for coming. Okay, Dilshad, go ahead. Unmute your mic. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, the prompt was coming that the host is not allowing, then it allowed. Sorry, that is why the delay. I could hear you. So I would say two things. One is, if I mistake not, I had read somewhere that during Baba's physical presence, the silence day used to be maintained, right?
Yes.
Initially, he had given an option of fasting for some days.
Well, there were many options.
Yeah.
One is from 8 to 8 fasting, sometimes no, not even water, sometimes only water, sometimes only for a few hours. For some people, when they are very much important in their work, I'll just complete because it is not some, just the many mix and match were there. Yes, but the last was this.
And later he had then stopped saying that now no fasting now means silence day. If it has to be observed only silently and no
What
other
I'm
option.
saying is he had lots of combinations of this silence and fasting and all that. But the last one that came across on in December 1968 for July 1969, there was no option for anything else except except
So
silence.
this
Correct.
was this was a trivia I thought we could share with the others. And my second thing which I really wanted to know, and my hand came up in this point of the incident that you were saying, that somebody was saying that the from the worldly point of view it is not keeping a promise, or from the point of others, they feel let down that Baba is not keeping his words. Now, my very first overnight stay at Mehrabad was on Silent Day, and it was an amazing,
Oh,
amazing
great,
experience.
great.
And to see so many people at the Samadhi, I mean, during aartis and everything goes clockwork kind of thing. It
Right,
was totally amazing. I was
right.
describing that experience to a friend, and the question that came, and which I could not adequately answer, and I seek that answer, is that Baba, and in any case, used to communicate with his hands, with
Yes,
his gestures. So,
yes.
if I may complete the question, he used to talk. So then, what is the importance of silence? He anyways used to talk.
You mean the silence of 10th July?
No, no,
Baba's silence.
no. The question that came from a friend is that he is communicating,
Correct.
he's talking with
But that
hands.
is our whole yesterday session and today's session was that only, that we are not qualified to say why he observed silence. Period. How can I answer when even the Manli did not have a very authentic or official
No, the,
answer?
the question is that he had not stopped communicating.
No, no, correct. That is why money many times says, that Baba was never silent. He did not speak, but he was never silent. He communicated through the board, through hand gestures, and most importantly, he communicates in your heart. So the
And
communication was not stopped, but speaking was stopped.
but also the communication, he wanted it reduced. He wanted people to be more inward and silent in that sense.
On the silence day, you mean?
No, in general,
Well,
be inward.
he always expected us to be very focused within us in order to take all our clues and cues within us. So that was always there. That was always there. That
So,
instead of going without, that means instead of having our focus all the time outside, we need to go within. That those messages are always there, that we need to be conscious of Baba speaking within our heart.
no, as in when you said that, Baba himself was very gregarious in terms of, very jovial.
Yes,
But at the same time, I think the inward journey would be more if one becomes less focused.
there
So
is
to
no way in which Baba is not comparable to anyone or anything. Not
us,
even, not even ours to chhod do, even to perfect masters. You can't compare because his modus operandi, his methodology was totally different from even the perfect masters. You see, the perfect masters, some of them would be so much into pujas and all that, like Narayan Maharaj and Upasni Maharaj. But Baba was absolutely not in it. Not only he was not in it, but he was advocating against it. So you see, he makes a blueprint of things to come in several hundred years to come. You see, so Baba is incomparable. Yes,
in today's talk, you said that in 1942, when Baba met Upasni Maharaj in that secluded place,
1941. Yes,
okay, I stand corrected, and uh, Baba said that you are my master. Kind of the question came is that by that time the avatarhood was already taken by Baba,
even
and
then the
everybody
master.
referred to him as
Yes,
master.
of course, he always respected. See, just because you become higher than the master, Like, for example, if your school teacher has taught you and now you are a principal of that school, you want to respect your school teacher who taught you, something like that.
But that
He
is the
was
world,
very respectful. Sorry?
but spiritual world and our gross world.
He was, okay, he was respectful, yes. He was
Thank you.
respectful.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Jai Baba. Any
Jai
more
Baba.
questions?
I
Yeah,
have a
Nisha would like to
question.
ask a question.
Yeah, please do.
Jai Baba,
Jai
Jai
Baba
Baba,
to you.
Nisha.
how are you all?
Very fine.
well, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Okay, so the question was, somebody like today we are at the moment me and Neeraj are staying at our sister-in-law's place for some time, and so we were talking about Baba to the other, to his brother-in-law, and we were just discussing generally, and for him it's the first time to know of Baba. So I just he happened to have a question which we never questioned, because we sort of believe in Baba, and we
Correct.
just don't question whatever he asks or says. So his question was, I just wanted to know, for my own understanding, how to address these questions to people who want to know more. So one question was that so a lot of gurus and a lot of people talk about these things and give us gyan, right? Like you all are giving us gyan, for example.
Okay.
And we are talking about, yeah, I mean, to us it's like that, right? We take you as
Okay.
words flowing from Baba to you, to us, it's like that. So his question was that, okay, but in this time and space right now, it's someone you need to have a guru. You want to have a guru who you can ask questions, or who can give you direct gyan and all that. So I'm like, look, what we now that Baba is not there, we have you all to tell us things, right, from what you have experienced and what others have told you in the mandali and all that. So, and you're reading and you're giving us all that gyan as well, and we are also reading. But some people tend to think that, okay, no, a guru is really important in somebody's life, like that. So how do you address that? How do you tell that we don't really...
My take would be, just put Baba's name on their ears and leave it to Baba to travel from the ears to the heart. All that we can do is just introduce them to some of Baba's books, or maybe now the Google Maharaj is there, the Wikipedia, whatever you call it, is there, and let them have their own research and all that. You cannot put Baba into somebody's throat. All you can do
Of
is
course, yeah.
you can impress, I wouldn't say the word impress, but through your own behavior, through your own transformation, people may understand that yes, something has changed within this particular person, and they might change as well. But all this kind of external gyan and storytelling and all that, I don't know whether it would affect them, whether it would really touch them or not. We leave
No, I mean, that's not
generally
even the intention, to be honest, Cyrus. I mean, I don't do it as an intentional,
yeah.
like, I don't want to throw it down
I got
there.
your point. I got your point. All you
Yeah.
need to do personally, I feel, is just tell a little bit about Baba, and if they are meant to know more about Baba, they would Baba would pull them in. We
Okay.
don't let there be no this thing that I want my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, mother-in-law to come. No, when the time comes, they will come. Just
course.
put Baba's name on their ears, and then it's up to them. And I generally joke around and say, put them on in the left ear and not in the right ear, because supposedly the heart is near the left. They say. So Baba has a little lesser journey to make from the ear to the heart. Of
Yeah,
course, I
yeah.
know the heart is not on the left; it's in the center. But I'm just
Yeah.
jokingly saying it. All right.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Jai Baba, thank you.
Jai
Yeah,
Baba. Jai Baba.
Delna has.
So, Jai Baba, bolo.
Cyrus, so from what I understood, you said it is nice to do keep the silence day, or is it a compulsion?
Okay. First of all, what happened to your thumb?
Cooking expert.
Fighting. All right. To answer your question very honestly, it's not a compulsion. That's what I said. It's not a compulsion, but it's a pleasure. It's a joy. It's a happiness. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not a compulsion.
I read on one of the Baba groups where Rustam Falati's, he was mentioning about how he also thought that keeping silence was not important depending on each one's work. And at that time, when he was in Mehrabad doing, the work for the factory,
Yes,
and
yes,
he,
yes.
he was supposed to go and meet the lawyer, and it was falling on 10th of July. And then he was talking to Baba and saying, but then he kind of questioned it and said, okay, if people have a job where they have to talk, then Baba will be okay. He's very practical. And he sat in the bus, and apparently he met a friend after 25 years. And before sitting in the bus, he said, Baba, give me a sign, or should I talk? Is it okay? I'm going on 10th. And he met the friend. He spoke to the friend, he spoke to the lawyer, and then after a few days, he went to Mehrabad. He met
Yeah,
Iraj.
we've read all this.
Yes. So
Yeah, I
Iraj
know her.
did mention that, Rustam, you should have been more, aware that Baba would have loved it if you would have kept the silence. And
Mhm.
maybe your friend meeting you in the bus was just trying to see how obedient you could be to his, his this thing. So, I
So
was
my answer to this would be to each his own.
okay.
There's no right, wrong. Because I do remember when I was young, going to college. I can always name my friend Jimmy Patel. Most of you know him. We would go and we would be sitting in the college and doing everything in silence. And when we go in the bus and all that, we write on a sheet, Churchgate and all that. And sometimes, they would say, "Oh, poor these two, so nice looking, handsome looking youngsters, and they are both dumb." So it's okay. It's fun. It's actually fun. And I would be going to office. I would be telling, even for tomorrow, day after, I would be telling everybody from whom I receive calls that irrespective of what, I am not going to speak. But I am doing it not out of compulsion. I am doing it because I love doing it. I don't consider it as a compulsion.
And what if you want to take silence, but it so happens that on that day only you land up,
If you have to
grumpy?
see, I remember once somebody said, to Baba, when Baba was there, that Baba, my job requires that I cannot keep silence. And very beautiful. See, Baba was a very practical master. That's what I'm saying. Baba said, okay, if you've got to go to work, do go to work, but speak as much as is required of you to speak. The rest of the time you keep silence. So that was also there, you see. And I remember an instance. See, most of us take Baba's silence with a lot of gloom, gloominess means sadness and heaviness. I personally don't look at it that way. People say you must look within and you must silence your mind, and the thought, it's impossible to silence your mind. All that we can
But
do
the
is we can
goal
think.
is that.
The goal, I don't know where the goal is.
Like money.
I am not.
But this is fun.
My goal is to remember Baba when I breathe my last. I don't know what the real goal is all about. So what I'm trying to say is, during Baba's time, things were very light and fluffy. I remember Rano Gheli telling once, that they were in the trust office, and I'm sure this must be after Baba dropped his body, and somebody rang, and of course nobody lifted because the phone. Nobody lifted. Again after some time ringing. Again after some time ringing. Rano got so angry, and in a fit of anger, without realizing that it is a silence day, she lifts up the phone and says, "Don't you know today is silence day? We are not supposed to speak." And then she realizes, oh my God, I spoke. And everybody had a hearty laugh. You see, I also know of another instance where on a silence day, Baba had lagawed a challenge to everybody, that Jim Mistry was Rhoda's husband, Falu's father, Merwan, Falu and Saros, three, I'm sure you all know, Jim Mistry. So there was a challenge that anybody who makes Jimmy talk on the silence day, you have to trick him into talking. And when anybody who makes him talk, I would give him some prize or whatever it is. So everybody tried to do their own tricks to make, now I'm just imagining Baba's silence day. There was no seriousness there. And everybody failed, and everybody failed. And then in the evening, Baba is asking, whether anybody could, make Jimmy talk. So everybody said no. And Baba, see, Baba looked at Jimmy straight in the eyes and said like this, means Jimmy interpreted it as Baba asking, stop. So, Baba, શું બોલું? Baba, what should I speak like that? And immediately Baba said, hey, I won. I made him speak. So there was fun, laughter and everything. But yes, by all means, that is one day when you can allocate specially for remembering Baba, either in through whatever way that you wish to remember. This time I am told that there's some very heavy program,
Yes,
circle of friends, yeah.
Yes.
Somebody took my pre-recorded talk as well, video talk as well. I don't know when it is or where it is. I haven't got the timetable for it yet.
We're going to send it soon.
Anyway, so what I'm trying to say, there is whole day activity of dancing, of music, of talks, and so many things. So this is a natural, spontaneous way of focusing on Baba rather than sitting into a certain pose and so-called meditating on Baba. So you got it? Okay. Thank you,
Jai
Rana.
Baba.
Thank you, Jai Baba. I suppose we've exceeded our time. If somebody has any questions, I would be willing to answer. Otherwise, because today is God Speaks turn, so I don't want to prolong much.
So there is
All
Farida
over?
and Rakesh Gupta. No,
Sorry?
Farida and Rakesh Gupta.
Farida, okay, okay, okay,
And Rakesh.
okay, please. Farida, come in.
Okay, this is not a question, but can I share a joke?
Hear a joke, tell a joke. You want to hear or you
Yeah,
want to
actually, it is,
tell?
I want to tell about the Silence Day.
Please say.
Okay, this was my very first Silence Day. I had gone
If it
with
is a joke,
Beirut.
Farida, if it
Yeah,
is
it is a joke.
Farida, if it is a joke, please tell us when to laugh. Huh?
Oh my God.
Okay, so we were doing the night journey, and Beirut had told me midnight you have to start the silence. So obviously we started, and the bus stopped somewhere for a break. And since I was supposed to have the silence, I went to order for something in sign language. And the person who was taking the order thought I am deaf and dumb. And then I had to say, no, I mean, I just did with the action that I not deaf and dumb, I just for prayers. So that was a joke.
And the best part is, my observation has been that the person also responds through sign language. Have you marked it? Because when
Yes,
when
with
we
a lot of respect.
But yeah. But, acha. Now somebody just reminded us, and I'm glad that people remember about Baba's alphabet board that I spoke about yesterday, that I was privy to that, So this is the alphabet board that came to me as a gift. Can you all see? Can you all see the alphabet board? Yeah. So this is the alphabet board. It is broken on one side, the 0. I don't know whether is it visible? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the alphabet board that Baba had used. One of the alphabet boards, let me be clear, and which somehow came to me through Dara Katrak. So this was in our Tijori. But thank you for actually Soumya reminded me several times. But I said, okay. I don't know whether they'll remember, and I'm glad. Who was the one? Pooja was the one who reminded. What about the alphabet board? Thank you, Pooja, and thank you, everybody. So I think we call it a day.
No, Rakesh.
Oh, Rakesh.
Rakesh.
Oh,
Yeah.
Rakesh. sorry.
Jai Baba sir.
Oh, Rakesh, Jai Baba dear.
Yeah, so just now Soumyaji mentioned that the goal of something is silencing your mind, but this goal cannot be the aim of Silence Day. I don't think Baba meant that.
No.
Do anything like
Silencing the mind is too far away for us, yeah. And
I mean,
I'm glad
It's
this
only
point.
to participate actually.
I'm glad this point came about, and this is very profound.
Yeah.
Baba says that you cannot really have no thoughts. You cannot silence your mind, in a sense, no thoughts. But Baba said that that focusing on me all the time, focusing all the time on me also tantamounts to silencing of the mind. So this is a very profound what should I say, revelation from the Lord himself, that while we are utterly are incapable of silencing the mind in the way we are supposed to silence blank, no thought. Baba says that even if you are concentrating on one single thought about God, focusing on Baba, on thoughts, then that also is equivalent to silencing of the mind. That we can do, but no thought or blank mind is, I would say, impossible. Not next to impossible, but impossible.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you, and wish you have a lovely silence day, and maybe with Baba, of course, and maybe later on we can share what all we enjoyed during the silence day. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. Jai Baba. Thank you, Baba. Thanks.
Thank you, Cyrus. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
everyone.
Baba.
Thank you.
Jai Baba.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Cyrus and
Baba.
Soumya.
Meher Baba
Jai
ki
Baba.
Thank you, Rakesh.
Thank
Jai
you.
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you, Jyoti.
Avatar Meher Baba
Thank you.
ki
Baba
jai.
ki
Thank
Jai.
you, Soumya.
Jai Baba.
Abdul Meher Baba. Jai Baba.